You're saying something that I have long believed, and it's one of the things that I find so strange about people like William Barr. William Barr knows there's going to be another attorney general someday, and it's going to be a Democratic attorney general. And that attorney general is going to have the power to look at every single thing William Barr did. And it's coming at some point.
It's coming, and you feel these people like him or that crackpot senator who's parroting Putin down in Louisiana, John Kennedy, in quotes, they're acting as if there's no tomorrow. There's never a reckoning. And what I try to do in this piece is make the point, whoever goes to jail or doesn't go to jail, whatever crimes are found out now or in the course of a Trump presidency is nothing compared to what's been buried that none of us know about, not even a very zealous investigative press has found yet. And people are going to be turning over rocks for decades. And you look back at history, General Motors and Ford both had executives who were essentially Hitler appeasers, and in case of General Motors, were involved in the armaments that were used against American troops and manufacturing them in Germany during the war. It took 40 years to find all that out, but it all came out. And people who support these kind of regimes, whether it be appeasement then or America First in the 30s, or Trump, which is, let's face it, a criminal presidency, however you want to slice it, there's going to be a reckoning. And one other thing I wanted to mention is we can only take the Nixon analogy so far because, yes, Nixon abused his office. He also tried to throw a presidential campaign, but it would never occur to him to collaborate and aid the Soviet Union, America's own enemy. It would never occur to him, to my knowledge, to break up immigrant families at the border and turn away refugees from HARS and other countries. It would never occur to him to, quite the contrary, to fight climate change science and to downgrade a regulation of environmental poisons. And so these are really serious crimes, and whether they produce jail sentences or not for the people who did them, they'll be implicated, and so will their children and their grandchildren. There's going to be a stain.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.